What even is this place anymore? Earth is not a real place.
That mother back there is not real.
Every day, life has become a parody and it's not funny anymore. We have men identifying as women, making literally no efforts to even pass as women, and now they are getting mother's pensions because they are women with children. We have 50-year-old men identifying as little girls to compete in swimming competitions alongside little girls, showering and changing in the girls' change room with underage girls, and people are defending it. We have biological men identifying as women, committing crimes, taking people's lives, and the media reports it as if an actual woman was the one who committed the crime. If 15 years ago this was the storyline of a movie, I would have said it's unrealistic. I'm not watching it. But this is real life now. I cannot. Hello everyone and welcome to Clown World. Welcome, come on in. If you're a new viewer, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If this is your second, third, fourth time watching one of my videos and you are not yet subscribed, we already go together. Okay, make it official and hit that subscribe button. Today, we need to talk about this self-IDing bullshit because it's getting out of hand. I have 3 stories that I want to talk about and I put timestamps so you can see where each story begins. They get increasingly more disturbing as you go along, so I've saved the worst for last. But the first story is one where I'm a little annoyed, but I'm not mad. The reason I say this is because the guy is very clearly trolling and taking advantage of a system that has ridiculous rules. So I can't hate the player, but I hate the game. In Spain, they have passed laws which have eased the regulations surrounding legally changing your gender. And in one city called Ceuta, there are 37 men who are all working in public service roles like police, military, guard, etc. And they have all legally changed their gender to women. But that's the only thing that they changed. They haven't changed their names. They are making no attempt to physically look like women. These are men who are gaming the system. One of these men is named Roberto Perdigones. He is a 35-year-old army corporal who changed his legal sex to female after deciding he identified as an intersex bigender person.
What?
In an interview, Roberto described his orientation as, quote, "On the outside, I feel like a heterosexual man, but inside, I am a lesbian woman, which is what prevails. That's why I made the legal change to female. I did it because I could." This is my attempt at a Spanish accent, my poor attempt at a Spanish accent. I'm trying to sound like Antonio Banderas, but I don't think it's working. But I'm gonna continue to try. So his quote continues, "Before, I was screwed because I complied with the law. Now I'm still complying with the law, but after finding my gender situation, I've been benefited. And if someone criticizes me, they may be committing a crime of transphobia." I'm done with the accent for the rest of the video. I tried a thing, okay? I tried a thing. As I mentioned earlier, Roberto is an army corporal, and as a man in the army, the men are expected to be shaven and adhere to a strict dress code. But since Roberto now identifies as a woman, the dress code meant for men doesn't apply to him anymore. So he's been wearing earrings, he's wearing his hair long, growing out his beard, and they can't tell him shit because I feel like a woman. Roberto also has a child, and since he now identifies as a woman, he qualifies for mother's pension. By changing my sex, as I have been informed, my pension has gone up because women receive more in retirement pensions to compensate for the inequality. In addition, I get 15% more because I have a child. I even have a private room in the barracks all to myself with a private bathroom because, being a woman, I can't be with the men and I didn't consider it appropriate to be with the biological women out of respect for them. I've had the room to myself since the sex change. Roberto also said that he plans on applying for a promotion under the Affirmative Action Program, which is designed to incentivize more women into going into the armed forces. Roberto is approaching the mandatory age of retirement for temporary soldiers, so he's looking to secure a permanent position, and he says he will be applying as a woman since the physical tests are less demanding and because certain positions are seeking more female representation. Roberto also plans to use the law to obtain custody of his estranged son, which he has not seen since he was 3 years old. I have a 16-year-old son from a former relationship. As a father, I hadn't seen him since he was 3 years old. But now I'm no longer a father, I'm a non-gestating mother. This means that I can fight on equal terms with his biological mother. I'm in the process of looking for a lawyer to recover what I have lost. So Roberto basically did a whole interview telling on himself. It's quite possible that all of this is gonna blow up in his face, but it's also possible that it won't, because we live in a clown world and it's just hard to tell what's gonna happen these days. The next story I want to talk about is one that takes place where I live here in crazy ass Canada. You know, people have always made jokes about Florida being a crazy place, but I think just the whole country of Canada is winning the race.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
This story involves NissCee.Cepeda, who has chosen the name Melody Wiseheart. So NissCee.Cepeda is 50 years old and is an associate professor at York University in Toronto, and ironically works in the Department of Psychology. I say this is ironic because based on the circumstances, I do think it would be a benefit for Nicholas to speak to a psychologist. A few months ago, Nicholas made headlines after being exposed for competing in swimming competitions alongside young girls. Nicholas has allegedly been doing so since 2017, despite the fact that the swim club has divisions for every age group from toddlers, kids, teenagers to master swimmers. Nicholas primarily competes in the 15 and older girls division.
Cepeda transitioned well after puberty, so he's breaking the rules of the world governing body. And Swim Ontario, Swim Canada, this community center, they seem to have absolutely no problem with that. And by the way, this is not to say NissCee.Cepeda should be banned from the pool. What World Aquatics did was introduce another category specifically for transgender people. And you know, at the World Swimming Championships back in October in Berlin, Germany, not one person entered the other category. So you have to wonder, don't you, folks? The trans community has been screaming for years and years, tolerance, acceptance, we want to compete. Well, World Aquatics allowed that to give them their own division. Nobody showed up, so maybe there's something else at play. And by that, I mean, is NissCee.Cepeda, I don't know, does he have a fetish? My camerawoman, Avery, spotted him going into the female change room, and nobody here, none of the officials, is stopping him from doing so. Again, who cares what Rebel News or David Menzies has to say about transgender athletes? This is the world governing body saying this is offside.
If I were a parent, I would remove my child immediately from this swim program and ask for a full refund. There is no justification for putting the children's safety at risk and allowing an adult who appears to be mentally unstable to compete and change alongside children. Any parent who thinks they are being compassionate by allowing this to go on is being an enabler. We should be encouraging these individuals to seek professional help, not enabling them and validating their concerning behavior.
Stop it. Get some help.
The last story that I want to touch on happened in England, and J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, made headlines for sharing her thoughts on the story. So what is the story? Well, a man who self-identifies as a woman and goes by the chosen name Scarlet Blake is a violent individual who admits to getting sexual gratification from violence. Blake, despite also killing a human being, has been called a cat killer in the news headlines. Blake went on a live stream where he lured his neighbor's cat with cat food, hung the cat with a ribbon, dissected the cat, and put the body of the cat in a blender. And during the live stream, he said,
"Well, one day I want to learn how to do this to a person."
4 months later, this same sick individual then went on to roam the streets of Oxford, England, in search of a victim, where he found Jorge Martin Carreno, a man he had never met before. Jorge had been out drinking with friends, was separated from the group, was intoxicated, and was vulnerable. Blake recognized this, lured him to a secluded spot by a river where he ultimately took Jorge's life. When Jorge was found, it wasn't clear whether his death was accidental or not, and it took 2 years for it to come out that Blake had killed him. Blake has admitted that he did these crimes to impress his girlfriend, and he shared all the details with her. So, what does this have to do with J.K. Rowling? Well, when this story was first reported in the media, it was reported that a woman killed a man. and the media has been using she, her pronouns to describe Blake.
She lured him.
She was described as a cat killer. She has...
As a response, J.K. Rowling put out this tweet. I'm so sick of this shit. This is not a woman. These are hashtag not our crimes. And I agree with J.K. Rowling. These are not our crimes, and it doesn't benefit society to pretend that they are. You know, a few months ago, I was reading an article that took place in Norway where a woman killed her boyfriend. That's what the headline said. The truth was that both people in the relationship identified as trans, so it was actually the other way around. A biological male who self-identified as a woman offed his girlfriend. His girlfriend was in fact female but self-identified as a man. So this really was just a sad story of domestic V, where a man offed his girlfriend, but it had been reported in the news as if a woman did it to her boyfriend. And we're seeing this happen more and more, where men self-identify as women, commit crimes, and it is treated as if the crime was committed by a woman when it wasn't. As a society, we need to be honest about who is committing these crimes and why. And when it comes to recording crime statistics, if we are going to start recording these crimes as the gender that the person self-identified as rather than their biological sex, I have a problem with it, and so should you. It doesn't matter if they self-identify as women. Historically, these individuals have been shown to have a pattern of criminality that matches their biological sex and not their identity. And this is backed by research and statistics. A Swedish peer-reviewed study followed a population of individuals who had undergone surgical, hormonal, and legal sex reassignment between 1973 and 2003. And these individuals were compared to a control group, which was comprised of men and women who were not trans. The purpose of the study was to determine whether medical transition helps patients, and they also analyzed the patterns of criminality and violent crime. So they broke down the study into two groups. The first group of people was studied between 1973 and 1988, and this group did not receive adequate mental health services. The second group of people was studied between 1989 and 2003, and this group did receive adequate mental health services. And you can probably guess what the results were. In the group that didn't receive adequate mental health services, the trans individuals had a higher rate of violent crime than the non-trans individuals. In the second group, which did receive adequate mental health services, the trans individuals showed the same level of criminality as the non-trans people. The researchers concluded that the trans women were 18 times more likely to be convicted of a violent offense compared to women. I know a lot of people are going to be triggered by these findings, but that's what they found. And this was a peer-reviewed study, and if you would like to read the study yourself, I will link it for you in the description box down below. But going back to the findings, this is important when forming public policy because there are people advocating that trans women, so men who identify as women, should be housed in women's prisons. And in fact, this is happening in some prisons. This is a problem here in Canada, where violent male sex offenders who identify as women get to be housed alongside women even when they have proven to be a danger to women. And the study also demonstrates the importance of mental health services. The level of criminality decreased when adequate mental health services were available. And I know it's unpopular to say, but most of this trans sanity has more to do with mental health problems than anything else. And the only way to address it is to first acknowledge this fact that yes, it is a mental health problem. Society needs to stop validating people's delusions and encourage them to get help. I know you guys have thoughts and I would like to hear them in the comment section down below. If you liked this video, please don't forget to hit the like button as it does help me in the algorithm. A special thanks to all of you who are supporting me on Patreon. There's a handful of you who are supporting me on Patreon and I really appreciate it. If you too would like to support my channel, I will have my Patreon linked in the description box down below, as well as my other social media links. If you liked this video and you would like to see more like it, I will have 2 more videos linked for you in the end cards. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.